Alright, welcome back to Adore Cream. Welcome to a special edition called The Chart History of 1999 and its Singles. Here, I'm going to show you how the success of this album and its singles were different to anything Prince had released before or after, and how they would influence the outrun of Prince's career through the 80s. Basically, what it proved was that this album had the longest time in the charts of any Prince album. It had spent an incredible 150 weeks in the chart. During that period, he went from basically being virtually still an unknown in the black chart ghetto to basically the biggest star in America, and he was starting to break through in the world. Okay, I'm also going to prove that MTV rotation did a lot to enhance this album, and also he was on before Michael Jackson. Big shout out, big thank to a group called American Radio History Online. Basically what they've done is they've managed to scan copies of every Billboard magazine from 1920 through to 2015. It's mostly complete from the 30s onwards, and I've managed to be able to get copies of all the charts from the 1980s from this relevant period. So a massive thank you to them. Have a look at their archive. I mean, if you want to look at old Billboard magazines, really interesting stuff. Helped me prove a lot of points, and I'm really pleased with it. So basically, the first part here, we're just going to open up the album. Okay, the album itself was released on October 27th, 1982, basically, and we're talking about American Billboard pop charts here. We're not talking about the black charts. We're not talking about anywhere else overseas. And this thing shows you, I've also had it slowed down on my graphics. It came onto the charts on the week of November the 6th, 1982. It came in at a chart position of 56. And as you can see, it rapidly rose, and then it dropped down a bit. Then it went back up and peaked in the middle of 83. Kept going up and down during 1983-84. Took a real slump before Purple Rain came out. This part here is really going to shock you. This is Purple Rain era, and that actually pushed the album back up. Now, the way you read this chart, 0, that's like number 1, number 50, number 100, 150, 200. And as you can see, kept well for 84, then it slumped after the end of 84. A brief revival went around the world in the day, came out, and finally at the end of 1985, it finally dropped out. We're going to go into more detail than this though, but overall, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this video in the sense I'm going to analyze the singles one by one, and then I'm going to talk about the album as a whole and how the singles affected the position. In between each episode, you'll see little pictures showing things. Okay, so here we are, and I'm going to start with the first single, which was 1999. We're going to talk about its initial release in late 1982. Okay, as you know, 1999 was actually released before the album. It was released in America on September 27th, 1982. It was released around the rest of the world mostly a wee bit later, between November 82 and July 83. Basically, this single was the first chart hit outside of anywhere else out of America in the world, apart from I Want to Be Your Lover, which was a one-off. This is when they first started promoting. As you can see, when it was originally released onto the charts, it was basically viewed as a black single. And as a result, if we look at this chart here, you guys, we've already seen, okay, it's probably funny, okay. Now the red line is actually where 1999 was released onto the black chart, and as you can see, it peaked at number 4. But in the pop chart, it only peaked at number 44, took off and left pretty quickly. This explain chart here gives you an idea. At this time, like as you saw, he was still being pigeonholed and promoted as a black artist at this phase. And basically, the song was a massive hit in the black charts. Okay, according to this, it spent 16 weeks in the black charts, went in on the 23rd of October, in at 36, peaked at 4, 18th of December. Now, the thing about 1982 was there was a 3-week break in the charts. Normally, there's a 2-week. The last chart of 1982 was the 18th of December, and then the first one of 83 was 8th of January 83. Incredibly, this song remained at number 4 between the period. It was out at number 100 on the 19th of February 1983. Okay, on the pop charts, it went in at number 81 on the 30th of October. It peaked at number 44 on the weeks of the 11th and 18th of December 82. The 3-week break was actually murder to the single initially. It actually dropped all the way from number 44 down to number 77. And the next week, it actually fell out of the charts completely. It only spent 10 weeks in the charts. Now, why this is important is because this single pretty much fared the same as all the other singles to date, except I Want to Be Your Lover. Prince would release an album. He'd have one hit single off each album, or sort of semi-hit, you know, and basically the album and the single would fade afterwards. Any second singles coming out would flop, basically. Okay, one thing did happen though was that, as you saw on the thing I showed you in the pictures, on the 28th of January 1983, the Billboard magazine reported that 1999 had been added to MTV under low to medium rotation. So not high rotation, but people were playing it. It was a bit to save it. Some people saw the video, but it just wasn't quite enough to break him. The song kept dropping, and at this stage, Basically, 1999, the album peaked at number 23 and was dropping, pretty much. We're coming up to January, February 83. This is the time still when Billie Jean had just come out as a single. It hadn't been promoted. MTV was still mostly playing rock acts. The only black acts they were playing was the Michael Jackson duet with Paul McCartney, and they're only playing a bit of Lionel, Richie and Diana Ross. Black artists were still relegated to the black chart ghetto. And this was kind of like Controversy and Dirty Mind, where you had the one single, like Uptown got to 104, Controversy got to number 70. The albums barely went gold, and then they promptly dropped out of the charts. And this would have been the same, but as you see, one thing was going to change basically. As you can see the star here, this is when 1999 was added to the rotation, but as you can see it was just a bit too late. So we've got this period, January to February here, with nothing's going on the Prince wheel. What he is doing now, these boxes here, is he is touring with the Triple Threat Tour. This part here was still very much a Chitlin circuit, black venues. This part here is when Little Red Corvette takes off, and towards the end of this part, the venues start to fill up and more white people are coming in, basically. So that's 1999. Now we're going to talk about Little Red Corvette. Now we reach the fountainhead moment. Little Red Corvette. This single changed absolutely everything in the Prince world. Here you are. Here's my 7-inch Australia. Just the fact this is an Australian single, and this actually came out in February '83. This was the song. Not only was it a massive hit in America, reaching number 6, it was also a fairly big hit around the world. It got to number 3 in New Zealand, number 9 in Australia, and it even got up to number 25 eventually in Britain. This was the breakthrough song, and two things broke this song straight away. First of all, let me show you the chart with Little Red Corvette. This stuff here is Little Red Corvette. I'm just learning how to do Excel. This is quite good. As you can see, for once, whereas this was the black performance of 1999, this is the pop performance. Prince's start as a black artist was actually now starting to drop. Even though when it first came out, it was still February, March. It was still at the very end of the racist, they got their music, we got our music period. And it was still promoted, as you can see, as a black single, though. Kudos to Prince, though, for having 2 single picks in Billboards. I mean, people might have relegated this guy as a black artist, but they were really liking the music. And as you can see, Little Red Corvette just absolutely took off. It went blasting into the top 20 and into the top 10. April 30th, 1983 was an important date, because that was the day Little Red Corvette sailed up to number 10 and basically overtook I Want to Be Your Lover as Prince's biggest hit to date. And also, you see here the star. The other big thing that changed it was, as you can see in the pictures I showed you, on the 4th of March 1983, Little Red Corvette was added to the MTV playlist. But unlike 1990, don't worry about the precisions of the stars. That's just merely because I was trying to fit everything on this graph, because as you can see, it's getting very cluttered. Basically, it wasn't just added to low and medium rotation, it was headed to heavy rotation. People wanted to see this video. Even though it wasn't a great video, it's just them playing it constantly. There's far too much neon and steam for my liking, but still, people could see the song. It was a short little clip, 2.5 minutes, and basically Prince and the band were lip syncing, but it was great though. People could see how great this song was, and this song just bloody took off. As you can see, all the way up to number 6 on the pop charts. Only got to 15 on the black chart. It was less of a black success, and I think that was mainly because it was just a pop song. They didn't really see it as a funky, blues cut. And also the other thing that really pushed it up was, you notice in that MTV list, also added to the list was Billie Jean by Michael Jackson. Now that's proof 1999 hit MTV before Billie Jean, because Little Red Corvette and Billie Jean went in at the same time, 6 weeks after 1999. As you can see, this is around the same time. I think it was late February '83. Walter Yetnikoff, the head of CBS Records, sat down with the head of MTV and said, look, if you don't put Michael Jackson's Billie Jean on your station, we are cancelling all CBS artists, which in those days were a lot of them. And then also at the same time, David Bowie was promoting his new album, Let's Dance. He was talking to Howard Goodman, the VJ, the big Jewish guy with the massive Jufro. And he said, how come you don't play any black artists on TV? How come you don't play the Michael Jackson song? And around February, March '83, MTV sat down and said, look, we've got to stop this R&B stuff. We've got to start playing these black artists. This Michael Jackson stuff's hot. We've got to look at this Prince guy. We've got to look at some songs by Zapp. We've got to look at that new group called DeBarge and all these other people. And then, of course, Lionel Richie was having all these hits for '82, '83. Black music was crossing over into the pop mainstream again, and it's first time since the mid-'70s. The disco era stain had gone. Little Red Corvette just went absolutely bananas, and basically Prince had arrived. Okay, now some stats about Little Red Corvette. First of all, it spent 22 weeks on the pop chart. Went in at number 66 on the 26th of February. It climbed very slowly, actually. It took until the middle of April to get into the top 20. It peaked at number 6 on the 21st and the 28th of May. It was a slow climb. However, it went out on the 23rd of July 86. Generally with most songs, they climb quickly, they plateau, they drop quickly, very quickly out of the charts. Now on the black chart, for the first time ever, the song did not do as well. Every Prince single to date, including I Want to Be Your Lover, had done much better on the black chart than it had done on Little Red Corvette. It went in on the 12th of March, spent 16 weeks, only peaked at number 15, and it peaked 2 weeks before the whites. It peaked between 7th and 14th of May. So that was quite shocking. It was not such a massive hit, basically, and that was really bizarre. So that's Little Red Corvette. It was a song that broke Prince, basically. Okay, now, third single. This is really bizarre. 1999 came back. It was Revenge of 1999. Maybe people have been watching that rotation on MTV as it was lifted to heavy rotation. This is a British release from 1985, but pretty much a version of Little Red Corvette like this came out. It was a double A side with Little Red Corvette. However, I suspect this re-release just had the original B side, How Come You Don't Call Me, which was an outstanding song in its own regard. Okay, so what we're going to see is you can see the sales were affected by these singles. As you can see, Little Red Corvette in 1999 release kept it up high. People just wanted more product off Prince. Now, the funny thing about the re-release, as you can see here on this chart, basically, is that it was not re-released to the black community. It was only re-released as a pop hit, basically. And it actually did pretty well, getting up to number 12 on the charts, which put it in basically third place after I Want to Be Your Lover as Prince's biggest hit, pretty much. And this song did pretty well and basically got more interest in Prince. And this is when people say, oh, 1999 got to number 12. Yep, well, this re-release, it spent 15 weeks in the chart. It went back in on the 4th of June, just after when Little Red Corvette was still dropping at number 70. It peaked at 12 on the 23rd and 30th of July, so it was like your hot summer jam. This was the same time when Michael Jackson sailed to number 1 with Billie Jean and Beat It. So all this black dance music was just hot that time, you know, summer of 83. It was just before Flashdance came out, so the charts were turning black, and there was no Billboard blurb about it. Basically, what just happened was people had forgotten about it, they picked it up, started playing it again, and pretty much went out on the 10th of September. We don't know why it didn't come out on the black chart. Either they weren't aiming at the black audience, or they were, or did not do it again. I mean, people realised 1999, great song as it is, it's not very black sounding, you know. So that's the 1999 re-release. All right. Now, the single did even better. Now, this is just a promo copy from 82, but basically what happened was in the next single out was Delirious, and as you know, Delirious is a beautiful song. It's very poppy. In fact, while I was doing this chart research, I couldn't stop singing this song Delirious to myself. I get delirious whenever you're near, lose all self-control, baby, just can't steer. And that's probably another reason why it was a hit, because like Little Red Corvette, you had that car imagery running for it again. Wheels get locked in place, silly look on my face. It's just an infectiously great song. I love it. So basically, Delirious again became another massive hit, pretty much, as you can see. And again, like Little Red Corvette, whereas Delirious was a massive smash on the white charts, reaching number 8 and staying there for quite a while. It was Prince's second top 10 hit, and by this stage, if people hadn't bought 1999, they had to go out and buy it. It was also the same time Michael Jackson had more hits with Human Nature and Thriller. Thriller, even though it was a big video, only got to number 4, and also Michael Jackson was about to get more gold with Say, Say, Say. But anyway, this was just a time when it was just selling crazily. And again, what's really weird about Delirious is it did not do that well on the black chart. It only got to number 19 on the black chart. It was like Prince was just losing his way with black people for some reason. I mean, part of the reason too was that up to date, the tours had primarily been aimed at the Chitlin circuit audience and African Americans. And Prince wasn't touring at this time. He'd done a few of the one-off gigs for the Purple Rain era. You know, he'd been, at this time, while all this music was happening, Prince was actually hard at work in the studio making music for Apollonia 6. That was when Vanity left. His own album. I mean, he was filming bits of Purple Rain. He was doing the Times new album, and also working with Sheila E. And in November, December, that's when Prince was shooting Purple Rain in Minneapolis. So Prince wasn't actually sitting around enjoying all the success. He was too busy working, basically. Now, Delirious. So that's another big hit song. According to my charts, this is all the work I had to go through. Copies of Billboard. Basically, what I do is I went into them every 2 weeks, so it wouldn't take too long. It took me 3 nights to do all this stuff. I'm very excited about it. But Delirious on the pop chart spent 17 weeks in the chart, which is quite a long time. Went in at number 74 on the 3rd of September 1983, peaked at 8, and it stayed at that peak for 3 weeks. between the 22nd of October and the 5th of November. So this is the same time Michael Jackson had released Thriller as a single, basically, so it couldn't quite compete with that, but at number 8 is still impressive. It went out on the last chart of 1983, Christmas Eve, at number 99, basically. Okay, Black Charts only spent 13 weeks, went in on the 24th of September at number 69, peaked at 18 on the 12th of November, so after the White Chart, and went out on the 17th of December, so it went in and out quicker than it did on the White Chart. Now, the other thing too you might have noticed in my things is by this stage, Billboard was dropping some of their racism, and you'll see that it's Delirious is a picked single, but it's not under black, it's under pop. By this stage, mid to late 83, people had finally got the thing that, like Prince and Michael Jackson, they were no longer black artists playing to the Chitlin circuit and playing to guys with peace afros, you know, wearing spaceships like Lakeside. They were basically commercial pop artists aimed at the soft white gut of America. Prince was basically considered a white pop artist by this stage. And that was, I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but basically what it did was it moved more copies of 1999 and basically it proved he was a bona fide star. By this stage, Prince knew that the sooner he got Purple Rain out, he knew it was going to be huge. Pretty much, I mean, we talked about in the last video how he recorded all this music back in the early part of 82, and now finally, 18 months later, things were paying off. Okay, the other big thing that happened to at this stage was basically around October 83, Controversy was released as a CD. In November 83, it was released, 1999 was released as a CD album, as new technology. The other thing important about that though, is this first version actually had the track DMSR missed out because very early CDs could only hold 73 minutes of music and a song had to be chopped. Also remembering back in January 83 you had the 7-track album. So that's Delirious, and that is the 4th single. Now,